Welcome to Leadership Labs. I'm Louise and Maurice, leadership mentor and creator of the Academy for Holistic Leadership. In Lab 4, you learn by applying your skills in real-world practice, strengthening your ability to lead with clarity, confidence, and grounded presence in everyday situations. All the resources I mention in this professional training are free and linked in the description below. Let's get started. In this section, we've been learning session number 2. Well, now we're on step 5. And step 5 is the way that you end the session, 5 minutes. Now, the PDF document that I have available for you has all of the phrasing on there for you, but it's following my 3-part process: now, next, and new. The now lets your client know. Now you know how to empower your confidence. You're telling them what they've just learned, but in a purposeful way, in a powerful way. Now you know. It's not wishy-washy. It's very much, this is what you just learned. In the next session you give them the date and time. Remember, commitment is key. And regardless of how you are holding your conference, how you are holding your session, this is important. It's the same process. And even more important to follow this when you're just looking at a little screen. You have to be able to connect with people in a way that they feel like they matter to you. And as a coach, when we're using video, we have to really come across in a different way, in a more powerful way, yes, but we have to show them that they are important. And that's where the 3rd part, new. I'm going to send you a new email that has all of the information that you're going to need to prepare for session number 3. All right, for the next session. And that lets them know that you've got it all done. But if they've got to practice anything, and if you've got to pull anything forward from the session, maybe they didn't have an opportunity to complete something, or maybe they fumbled on a question and you wrote that down. But after this session, remember, it's only 40 minutes long, but it's an opportunity for you as the coach to make those notes. Make notes. And especially if you're doing a group coaching where you're meeting with a couple of people at a time, then it's important to understand what client A said and what client B said and not mixing up the two. Very important that you distinguish between clients. You never want to mix people up. Why? Because if they lack confidence, then part of that is their needs were never met as kids. They were definitely feeling that need of connection, feeling like they're important, that they matter. And you as a coach, you have to be able to connect with those needs. It's important. Though those are the foundation pieces. Yes, you want to empower them so that they take ownership, but you have now become that important person in their life. You have to see them as important. All right. In the next lecture, we're going to look at your practice, but I'm going to share with you some insight. Let's continue. In this lecture, we are going to talk about your level 1 non-mandatory practicum for session number 2. And I say non-mandatory because you might be taking this for your own purposes and you don't want to become a coach. However, if you are going through for level 2, this allows you to practice what you've learned. Now, even if you are taking this for yourself, I highly recommend that you do go through and you answer the questions and you find out how you can use some modalities to change up your experiences that you've had. And if there's one particular experience that every time that you go into that experience, the same thing happens. You shut down, or you start personalizing and looking at everyone else as more important and you're not important. Whatever your inner world is, I recommend that you use this process, this procedure in your own world and go out there, because that's what training is all about. You've just learned this, but now I want you to practice, because when you're implementing and you're practicing, then you become familiar. And it really is a difference maker. And yes, it requires that whole practice, implementation, in order for you to retain it. Because for anything to change in your life, it really is about just taking small steps and doing something that really is pretty tough for you. Now, as an example, it might be going into meetings. Maybe you go into meetings and you have to be confident and you have to speak. And anytime that anyone makes a comment, it brings you back to times when people have made comments and made fun of you. Maybe you have idiosyncrasies. Maybe you speak in a different way, and maybe you flush. Whatever that is, I want you to tone down the way that it shows up in your mind. So if you do feel a little bit of heat coming, typically when people are flushed and they feel heat coming on, they're thinking of their face being red. Don't think of it that way at all. Think of it as being cool. And think of that as what is igniting you to be your best. It's all about making switch ups and changes so that those experiences don't stop you anymore. But as you are going through and you're coaching yourself, make those adjustments. Think about the people that you are going to be coaching. Think about how you want to use this for your own self. And then, as I always recommend, go out there and practice with family and friends. It's a miracle when you do that, and how their comments don't even bug you anymore. And if they never supported you before, now they're going to see what you are doing and they can support you. All right. Make sure that you feel complete with that before moving on, because in the next section, we're going to focus on session number 3, the T of get results, the first T. Let's continue. This is your Empower Lab report. Remember, the Get Results Confidence Coaching Module 2, Lab 4. This is the wrap up. And for Module 2, which is Session 2, we've been focused on empower, hashtag empower. And for your lab report, the call to action is you want to move away from I am a superstar only when I am winning awards and getting people's attention, getting them to clap, that external approval. And we saw that way back in Lab 1 with our case study, our manager who that's how she determined her worth. And you want to move away from that external approval and move toward I own my confidence regardless of the team's attitude or the environment. Now, that was our example that we were looking at, and you can apply this to any situation that you have. But it really is about owning, having that internal ownership, because you are the one that dictates your confidence and how you show up in all of the different environments where you are a leader. And remember, this is about being a leader in every area of your life. And if you are using this because you are a coach, and sometimes there are certain clients who trigger you and trigger your reactions, and during the coaching session or after the coaching session, you're ruminating and your confidence dwindles. Well, this is where you want to use the submodality slider. And when you think of a past superstar moment, what happens when you adjust the visuals? I made the image brighter and larger, and my confidence felt stronger. So I want you to use the submodality slider for moments where you didn't feel quite confident. And what was that trigger moment? And how did you allow that moment or what was said or the comment? And I want you to tone it down so that it is not impacting you and bringing you down. And I want you to hashtag empower yourself by making the image brighter. And maybe you responded in a different way. And this is where sometimes if we ruminate and we allow it to take us down, that impacts us in a negative way. But if you're ruminating and you're using the submodality slider to see yourself showing up differently, and how do you look? And are your shoulders back and you are being a different version of yourself? So this is where, with your lab report for this module, I want you to practice that submodality slider and then document your discovery. What did your lab report say? How did it inform you about your current level of confidence? You are a leader. And remember, the example case study that we used, it might apply to you, but it might not. But in what ways do you need to show up and be more confident? So how did using the submodality slider inform you about your current level of confidence? How did it inspire you to move you beyond your current confidence blocks? And then how did it ignite you to create a new confident reality? And knowing that you can use that submodality slider anytime. And it's particularly helpful when I've used this with people. They say that it helps them when there's a certain person in their life who always makes comments and they allow those comments to drain their energy, drain their confident energy. And I want you to use that submodality slider so that you take back ownership of those moments and you take ownership of your confidence. Now, remember, if you are subscribed to the @Louise and Maurice YouTube channel, you can share your answers, receive feedback, and interact with this very active leadership community. Thank you for completing this Confidence Coaching Leadership Lab. Every skill you practice here strengthens your ability to lead with clarity, confidence, and grounded presence in real-world situations. If you'd like to continue developing your human-centered leadership and coaching skills, you'll find additional resources, leadership labs, and professional training. Links in the description below. I appreciate you being here and investing in your growth as a leader.